We have seen analog horror take on a plethora of IPs over the years. Godzilla, Jurassic Park, Sonic, Five Nights at Freddy's, hell, even the MCU. But when I say I never expected to see these guys get the analog horror treatment, I mean it. And if you read the title of this video, then you know exactly what I am talking about here. That's right, the Teletubbies? Oddly enough, being featured in the recent 28 films. I am sure we all know of the Teletubbies, these freaky-ass bastards that did nothing but spawn nightmares. The show was created for the BBC, and its first episode aired in 1997, ending its 5th season in 2001. And in a shocking turn of events that I am amazed I never heard about, the show got a reboot in 2015 that lasted until 2018. And yeah, it still looks as terrifying as ever. The eyes are still soulless, and oddly enough, the reboot used a lot of CGI, so it actually looks more soulless than it did before. But in 2012, there came about a video game that changed everything, taking Slenderman and mixing it with the popular children's IP, thus creating Slendytubbies. Man, I remember watching Let's Plays of this back in the day, and it terrifying me so badly. In reality, it was probably because the scream they would make was ungodly loud. I never got around to playing that game, and probably for good reason. But who knows, maybe the game will see the light of day on 4Player. But needless to say, I ended up stumbling upon this analog horror / VHS series all about not just the Teletubbies, but the Slendytubbies. That's right folks, our frightening colorful bastards are about to get a lot more menacing and evil. Funnily enough, I am actually quite excited to get into this one because the idea is just so bizarre. I never thought I would see the day a Slendytubbies analog horror series would be created. As always, be sure to check out the original series down below to support the creator. But without further ado, let's put on our Teletubby protective gear. We don't know how feral these guys can get, and head out into the world of Teletubby land. But before I let you get too far, just wanted to say if you're new here and enjoy what you're watching, be sure to hit all those neat buttons down below as it really helps support the channel. I'll also have linked in the description below our socials and the 4Player gaming channel where we dive into the terrifying world of horror video games. But anyways, now you can pass through. Slendytubbies VHS. Subject Lala. The tape begins and it looks like we are walking around with a camcorder. And man, talk about compressed footage. This tape is blurry as hell. It almost looks like gameplay footage. Very quickly, we are met with our first sight of these demonic freaks. It's quite the blink and you'll miss it moment, but it looks like 2 Teletubbies covered in blood, and perhaps one is holding a weapon of some sorts. But if I'm being honest, it looks like they ate someone. It even says yum yum written in blood. Yums.
I call them yums.
Don't tell me we have to worry about a Teletubby eating us alive. The footage continues and our protagonist carries on throughout the forest, until they come across a bowl of the very familiar pink custard. However, it sounds like something isn't too happy that we approach their food. We continue sprinting for our lives, until we cut back and see us looking closely through the camcorder. And man, if this thing isn't freaky to watch move around. I didn't think that would be how our Slendytubbies would move. We end up getting another look, but from further away, until we cut ahead. And if I'm not mistaken, it looks like right in front of us could be a Slendytubby, but it's very hard to make out. The last thing we then see this tape looks to be us just looking out into the dark woods. Our description tells us that it is in the middle of the night that this all went down, and that it was March 31st, 1995. These guys weren't hit TV stars yet. Subject is female, yellow skin, ranging from 5 to 12 years old. She was deemed missing 2 weeks ago. Last seen at night in the mainland. Only found footage of her in recent memory. The tape was recorded in the outskirts at night next to the satellite station. We then learned that what happened in the end there was the camera being dropped, and it was left recording for several hours. This brings about a ton of questions. Where are these guys being held? What do they mean that one went missing? I wonder if this series will attempt to answer the question, what are the Teletubbies? You see, in classic Slendytubbies lore, Tinky Winky is the first to be turned after eating infected Custard, who then goes on to either kill or infect the others. And if the series is going to be following a similar story, it looks like Lala was the first to go, which makes sense considering in the game, it said that Lala is the first character you find. However, they are unfortunately killed. However, here it looks like she has been turned. Interestingly enough, there is a link in the description as well to this unlisted video just titled, Her Dreams. The first thing we see is Lala in a white void with a thought bubble next to her head. Also, her eyes have been censored for some reason. The whole scene then shifts. We see blood over her face and these haunting eyes, and in her thoughts is this shadowy figure. It then looks like this figure breaks out of the bubble, and we cut to found footage of someone running through this building of some sorts. where laughing can be heard somewhere off screen. In the description, we can read that her dreams are often foggy. Occasionally, a figure appears. She can't sleep. She is alone. I didn't expect to be saying this so soon, but I'm quite impressed. I didn't think I would find myself actually curious to see how this plot evolves. You can't help but be intrigued at the idea of Slender Man and the Teletubbies being merged into one horrific story. I bet in 100 years from now, just like with what happened to Winnie the Pooh and Steamboat Willie, the Teletubbies are going to be getting the horror movie treatment. And it's sad to think I may be old and withered away by the time that day comes. Slendytubbies VHS, Green Triangle. Remember all I said about the series following the events of the game? Well, forget about that, because this tape took that idea and threw it in the trash. The first thing we are met with is this blank TV screen that then turns on as if a tape is loaded up. Then this found footage begins to play, and Kevin Smith, no, not that one, is narrating the footage. He goes on to say that he has worked for this unnamed company for about 10 years now, and he is in charge of advertising. We then cut out and see what looks like this white silhouette, with audio that sounds reversed, and sure enough, there's a hidden message when played backwards. The nature footage then comes back and we learn about the Green Triangle organization that was founded in 1970. And then what he says next sure caught me by surprise.
Organization that was founded in 1970 in the United States of the Tubby Land.
He refers to the USA as the United States of Tubbyland? What the fuck happened here? We are then introduced to the founder of the Green Triangle org, Matthias Nunu. I actually love that last name. Nunu is actually the vacuum now that I think about it. We learn that his goal was to create a new form of life, so that the human race would never face extinction. How would that work, I wonder? Is he planning on doing like what the lizard sometimes likes to do and turn everyone into mutant lizards because he believes it's the next stage in human evolution? Based on the reversed audio we heard, I'd say that's damn near plausible. It also sounds like he knew of an event that was to come that would actually end the human race, so he knew he had to turn them into other forms of life. And we learn he was able to create a machine after many attempts with another engineer, and this machine was able to create life. The company then began to do tests, but the people were rightfully afraid. I wouldn't do it. This resulted in protests, since people found this practice to be incredibly wrong, with some believing this to be fake life. Are they making it to where a Teletubby is just a homunculus? This all led to the company resorting to drastic measures to say the least.
We had no choice. Our project is more important than people's lives. The big explosion killed 80% of the population. We found a cure for infected tubby.
It really looked like the company decided to start bombing, if you ask me. But it also sounds like this new life, aka the Teletubbies, began to get infected Custard, which led to disaster striking, and potentially being why the bombs went off. I also am curious as to who this mysterious Teletubby could be. Turns out, we get to see more of him in the next scene. He begins to speak, telling us that he saw it all with his own eyes. He was made into a monster. He asks if we remember what he said before he died, to which he decides to remind us, followed with an incredibly loud slideshow of images.
I'll take you straight to hell with me. You will suffer forever.
There was quite a lot that flashed on screen there. Some of it looked to just be gameplay footage, but some actually provided some info. First, it looks like someone trying to escape some facility, and we can see the year is 2005. Then what looks like Lala after being killed. Yikes. The shadow Teletubby standing by the machine. We then see this frame that has a Teletubby named Tom, it looks like, saying that they wanted to ask if they could talk about the last experiment, and it looks like they are talking to someone higher up. We also learn that Matthias Nunu died in 1991. Whether or not it was natural or not is yet to be known. We then see brief clips of these other creatures running at the camera before we get more distorted looks at the Teletubbies, before the tape ends. This one was pretty interesting as it was able to convey so much info just off this one TV screen segment. I did not think this would go in the direction of people being turned into Teletubbies, but here we are. So it sounds like this is taking some elements of the game's plotline whilst adding in a lot of their own original ideas. We've got the infected Custard from the game, but there was no sign of people being turned into them. There also seems to be a new antagonist that isn't just Tinky Winky. A new menacing Shadow Tubby. Wonder when he will make his debut appearance in the series. He'd probably fit right in. Satellite Station. We open up and the first thing we learn is that it is April 10th, 1995, and at 9 in the morning, Clay set up camp at the southeast end of the satellite station. Found footage ends up loading in and shows us at said satellite station. It's actually pretty funny how long it took me to notice that this was another screen being recorded to make it look like we are outside. It then hits almost 8 at night. The sun is now going down. Now we see the same satellite station, but now, as to be expected, it is darker. Nothing seems to be going around here, but I don't think nighttime is going to be as safe as the daytime around these parts. It's now 9 at night, and man, is it taking the sun a long time to set. We take a closer look at this satellite dish, but nothing too out of the ordinary can be seen. We get closer to the dish, yet still nothing new. We then learn that our cameraman considers going inside. Probably not a good idea if you ask me. We are then brought to the next day, likely around midnight, and sure enough, we are inside the station. Bad idea, man. We explore the darkly lit area, and thankfully there are no Teletubbies in sight. Yet, we end up finding ourselves in this one room, with a really haunting clicking sound coming from the dark hallway. Of course, we take this as a sign to move closer, until something appears to startle our cameraman. Once again, we are brought to this long hallway, and end up coming across more large structures and pieces of machinery. What's interesting is that this is sort of acting like one of those backroom liminal videos. This whole station has been giving off that vibe. It honestly looks a lot bigger on the inside than it does on the out. But then, it looks like someone figures out that we are in their territory. Something seriously wrong has happened to Poe. We then learn that a couple days later, Clay's body was found mutilated in the generator room, and then the tape ends. Now, I couldn't find any character named Clay in the Teletubbies canon, but I did see one of the episodes was named Clay, although I don't think there is any connection. The description actually tells us that the UK ICG recovered camera files of someone named Clay exploring the satellite station at night. His organs were scattered around the facility. Most, though, were found in the generator lock room. He was there for 3 days. All we know is that they should have stayed out of the satellite station, and that Poe has been turned into some kind of horrible monster. Project Interloper. With the collaboration of the US military, the Canadian Tubby Forces, the the official Russian Republic, and the German coalition, we were able to fund our passion project with some of the greatest minds of our generation across the world, including George North, Harrison Hablett, Stanislav Leon, Hans Muller, Louis Foreman, Guardian crossed out, Clay, and Nunu also crossed out, perhaps to mean dead. But one of those names also immediately stands out, Clay. The guy who went into the satellite station and got himself killed is one of the greatest minds of our generation. The collaboration of which in mind is the revolutionary technology of mind reading, called Project Interloper. We then get this separate section even further down. The floor is checkered in white and black, everywhere. Her dream feels too real. I went too far in. There's a figure coated in black. It's following me. I don't know how to get back. I want to go back. The final survivors could be seen alive wandering the hills of Antarctica. If I wasn't intrigued before, I certainly am now. We open up and see that this is a national security message from the UK. It said on March 30th, 1995, the UK ICGI developed the machine that can read minds called Project Interloper. More specifically, it's meant to access the dreams of those who sleep. We then see all the superpowers who assist in this project. We learn this can be used for great things like interrogation, envy, science, curiosity, military use, and for fun. Love it. I mean, I've always wanted a machine that could project my dreams. We learn that they used the machine on 4 lone Teletubbies out in one of many of the life preserves in the wasteland, termed the mainland. I did not think the Slendytubbies lore would run so deep. While asleep, we will see what they dream, and first up is Dipsy. She dreams of a bunny. How cute. Lala is next. Oh dear. Just like in her tape, her dream, we see the same thing play out, Shadow Tubby and all, except this time the plot continues. We are taken to March 31st, following the POV of Stan, one of the other great minds. The light comes on, and we see that very checkered room, with the captions giving us some more info. How did I get here? Did I somehow get pulled into Lala's dream? We hear this sinister laugh from all around, to which it looks like a bowl of custard on the ground. However, in the next scene, we have what looks like a flashlight, so who knows what it was. We cut ahead and zoom closely. However, nothing can be made out. That is until something attacks us. We know something attacked thanks to the captions, and it looks like the Shadow Tubby who is after us. We begin to run in the other direction, all while the growling and the static from the Shadow Tubby can be heard from behind. Another caption that appears that reads, "His veins were missing upon further inspection on what little of his corpse was still intact." Jesus. We keep on running, even though we know the unfortunate outcome. The room gets brighter, but this whole area seems to run on forever, like Patrick's dream in Battle for Bikini Bottom, just with no golden spatula. The captions then tell us that it was 9 at night when the search party discovered Stan's body utterly mutilated and dismembered in the back of the mainland house. Unfortunately, 3 of the 4 Teletubbies witnessed the corpse. The yellow one was nowhere to be seen. The 3 Teletubbies had to have their memories fried of what they saw soon after. Stan saw her dreams and went too far in, and saw something he wasn't supposed to see. Did the Shadow Tubby exit her dreams and then attack Stan? That would be my guess, unless he died in the dream and then his body was found dead in real life, like Freddy Krueger. In the background, we see a faint image of what looks to be Teletubby creatures, and the list of names we read prior. Guess we have to scratch off another. The last thing we see on this tape is a caption that says, "He had no veins." Something to note here is that the day they made Project Interloper is the day before the first tape, Project Lala. So Stan went too far into Lala's dreams, saw the Shadow Tubby, was attacked by it, and then Lala became infected by it, to which I imagine the infection then continues to spread on, because a few weeks later, Clay goes to the station and Poe looks just as horrifying. Also, this means the name scratched off did not mean they were dead. So what else could they mean? Potentially fired? Consumer contact. We open up and learn that this is a film by the UK Custard Foundation. Didn't know that was a thing. But it sounds like we are going to learn the fundamental basics of how and where custard is made. We then learn that 90% of our food is custard, being the main food group. I thought only Teletubbies ate custard. Learn something new every day, I guess. It's said that it contains high levels of protein and has a vanilla flavor. Needless to say, custard is made all throughout the wasteland in a multitude of facilities. It's also said that the vital ingredient for custard lies under the ground. Step 1 is to extract the ingredients from the ground. Then the ingredients are liquefied and mixed into the pink substance. Before we continue though, that previous frame had no humans, just Teletubbies. Has all of humanity already been turned into these things? Anyways, the custard is then put in the bowls and delivered right to your house. We then learn the most revealing fact yet.
Normally the ingredients needed for custard is quite rare, but thanks to the nuclear war that wiped out 97% of the human race, the ingredients for custard is now everywhere under the grainy sand of the wasteland.
So you're telling me that when the nukes get dropped, instead of getting to be a gunslinging vault dweller, we have to be Teletubbies? We're then told that we now know how to make a custard, so now we can go and do it ourselves. To which I now realize this is now the job we have. The screen, however, cuts to black, and Tinky Winky with a shadowy face appears on screen, and he turns the custard all dark, before being completely deformed. Then we see Poe, with his face censored too, then Dipsy with her head cut off, and Lala looking all mangled. Text then appears above her head. I can feel it. I don't want to turn into a monster. To which we get this really eerie segment. We can see that we are running to the satellite tower, all while it sounds like we are being chased. The footage then abruptly cuts out to another security message from the UK. Before we move on though, there were a few captions we needed to see there. When facing Lala head on, we can read a caption that says, "A lick of custard tastes humane almost." And then this next wall of text gives us some more context. It was late at night when Lala witnessed Dipsy get refigured by her friend. She ran away into the caves and miraculously survived, where she rested under a lit campfire. This is her first time seeing the wasteland. Unfortunately, she ate a custard. During an autopsy, it was shown that more than 60% of Lala's brain was completely checkered in a white and black texture. Scientists can only conclude she was born differently. "She can't see" is then said 4 times. She is crying. Well, I thought I had a timeline figured out, but I guess not. However, let's get back to that important message. We are told not to turn off our Tubby screens. No need to worry. At almost midnight, a security breach occurred under the Teletubby Creation Machinery Lab. We learn that surviving witnesses state that the machines were creating a bunch of dangerous, skinless, and deformed Teletubbies. That's not good. And we also learn that all the custard batches have been tampered with, so we better hope we didn't eat any of it lately. All we know is that if you have eaten it, you yourself become dismembered. We are then told that if we know anyone who has eaten the spoiled custard, then we have to kill them instantly, or else we risk them becoming a consumer, which sounds like this new breed of infected Teletubby. The message then ends, and we are brought to found footage in the POV of George North, a name we have heard before. We learn that George and some of his co-workers went out and found Poe. Apparently he was dead when he was found. The footage then cuts out, and we see Stan's death has been updated. But then, George's name is crossed out too. Another big caption then gives us some more context. The human species were dying. Fast. Almost overnight, half of our ancestors were gone. They were just gone. The days following, billions more vanished. Unfortunately, due to all of the utter radiation, babies born shortly after the event succumbed to weak and mutated systems, dying shortly after birth. As a last cry of the species' survival, they developed the machines. They made us. We are them. I imagine the question of if the human consciousness was transferred into Teletubby bodies will have to be answered. We then learn that on April 1st, 1995, Louis Foreman is instructed to investigate the incident in the internal Teletubby creation lab and turn off the power grid temporarily. Good luck, soldier. We cut to his POV and can see as he wanders the facility. We end up coming across a lone bowl of custard. Now who put that there? We continue on throughout the facility until we come across what looks to be the machines, where all these bastards spawned. We end up going up to this console. However, this loud screaming can then be heard from far away. Louis goes to find the source, for some reason, but then we end up quickly seeing that he is also dead now. Cause of death? Refigured by consumer. Our next scene takes us to the satellite station surveillance, and we get an audio log between Hans and Harrison, our two remaining survivors. Unfortunately, Hans is a consumer. We listen in on the audio log, and from the sounds of it, these two had just finished up their tasks and begin to head back, until Hans says that he is unable to move and begins to panic. He then admits to eating a custard. Harrison is now freaking out as well, asking angrily why he would eat a custard. But Hans says that they haven't eaten in days and he was starving, and something just came over him. Harrison thinks that perhaps a cure has already been made, so they both just have to return, but Hans refuses to go with him. Harrison tries to make him leave as well, until tragedy strikes.
No! Miles. Let go of me! Hans, come on,
stop!
I'm gonna turn into...
We then see that all of our scientists are dead. We then get a brief glimpse at the one named Guardian, who looks to just be this gray tubby, said to be last seen under the internal tubby lab with Anne and Miles. He sees a figure when he sleeps. The last thing we then see on this tape has me very intrigued. Human and Tubbies meeting yet again. This tape thankfully gave us a lot of answers. We know that nuclear fallout was the reason for humanity's brush with extinction, and that's what made them make the machine to create the new life forms, aka the Teletubbies. How they were supposed to help? I'm not too sure. Maybe humans thought they had a responsibility to breed a new intelligent life form to replace them, but I'm not too sure. There is, however, a link in the comments that takes us to an unlisted final video. They're everywhere. Like the title states, all this video has us looking at is this high up angle, and looking down we see this army of Teletubbies, likely the skinless, deformed ones we heard about earlier. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the slendytubbies VHS, a series I actually did not expect to enjoy as much as I did. It brought back some fun memories from the early internet days, and you can tell this creator was a fan of the source material. I also enjoyed the creative liberties that the creator took as well that differed from the games. But I have a feeling after looking more into the game's plotline that we will have a bit of a better understanding as to what happened here. In the game, Teletubbies are brought about in the same way actually, being artificially created by underground machines. These machines were built by the last of humanity in an attempt to create artificial humans, since humanity was a dying species. Humans born from these artificial humans were supposed to not be infected by the radiation from the bombs, but that didn't work out so well. That's why there are the Canadian Tubby Forces. This world has way more Teletubbies than humans now, so much so that they have their own government and are essentially just the main species. As for the Guardian, he is actually the main protagonist of the game series. He was tasked to monitor the Teletubbies during all the experiments, so from the sound of it, the game would take place somewhere after this series. Honestly, I had no clue that there was this much world building going on in Slendytubbies, but honestly, this is pretty rad.
Oh, come on! You gotta admit this is cool!
Now when it comes to the Shadow Tubby, not much is known, but it's heavily theorized to just be the embodiment of this infection, which is actually really cool. I'm not sure if that was the end of the series or if there would be any more to come. It honestly sounds like what happens after is the games though, so who knows, maybe I'll have to boot them up on 4-player. Needless to say, if you are interested in a really bizarre ARG with a surprising amount of lore, I'd check this one out. I'll have the link in the description below. But that'll probably be about it for this video. As always, be sure to keep on leaving me recommendations down below, whether it be in the YouTube comments or the community Discord where our Custard is not infected. But if you'll excuse me, I just got my Custard delivered.